Make yourself comfortable on this overlook on the east side of the Chaparral.
If you had to pick a distinctive plant community in California, Chaparral would be one of the most significant, both in terms of the area that it covers and how important it is to many, many different wildlife species. Many, many rare plant species are located in or on the edge of the Chaparral. There are many different kinds of it in all the Mediterranean regions of the world, and even here in the Bay Area, there's coastal sagebrush-dominated chaparral along the coast. Here we're in chamise-dominated chaparral on Mount Diablo, and other places toyon or manzanitas are the dominant plants. What they all have in common is they live in hot, drier places, often with shallow soils, where they have to conserve moisture. And so they often have waxy or oily coatings on their leaves that are designed to cut down on water loss. That also makes them flammable, and so a lot of chaparral plants have evolved with fire, which has led to the belief that fire is good for chaparral. Many chaparral plants do need fire to propagate or to regenerate. A lot of the nutrients are in the plants and in the oily leaves that last for years. They don't get released to the soil until there's been a fire. But too much fire, which is something we have to fear with global climate change, can actually get rid of the chaparral and replace it with weedy invasive exotics. We're standing on the edge of chaparral, and the plant diversity has gone up from single digits in the grassland to dozens of species in a very small area. I can turn around and see 10 times as many species within view as when we were in the grassland. Much more dramatic place. But these edges between the woodland, the chaparral, and the grassland, all these edges support much higher concentrations of species of wildlife. If you know nothing about this chaparral, you look around and pick out the most common plant, and it's going to be chamise. It's got tiny little leaves. They almost look like little specks. The chamise changes color 4 times a year. In the summer, when it's dried up, it looks almost black. But as soon as the rains start, it starts putting out bright new growth and it turns bright green. And then before long, it starts flowering. We're talking about whole slopes covered in the same plant, all of it turning the same color simultaneously. And so the bright green will turn to white from the flowers, almost completely covering the plant. And then later, the flowers will be replaced by rust-colored seed pods, and the whole slope will change color again. It's a really dramatic sign of the seasons, and people talk about the West or California not having seasons and how they miss the seasons from the East Coast. We have a lot more seasons than winter, spring, summer, fall. We've got the dry season, the rainy season, the seasons of chamise, the seasons when young coyotes learn to howl, the seasons when little lizards cross the trails, etc. And there are a number of species that use that chaparral. One in this area is Alameda whipsnake, and it can forage out into the grasslands, but it's really a chaparral species. If there's a fire at Lime Ridge that burns up all of the chaparral, which is conceivable, it's not that big an area, the Alameda whipsnake could disappear from Lime Ridge. And a lot of park conservation is all about island conservation. How does biology happen in a small, confined space surrounded by a sea of something else, in this case, urban development? What we know for sure is that bigger preserves are better, and if you have multiple preserves, they're better if they're connected. And the bigger the surface area of that urban edge, the more impacts you have infiltrating the open space from it. Alameda whipsnake are fast and aggressive predators, and so we know they can make it from Lime Ridge to Mount Zion without much trouble, but they're still going to be in danger from a lot more predators, hawks and eagles and things like that in that crossing. But if you fill the grassland gap between those two chaparral peaks with development instead of with an open space grassland, they may not be able to make it from one patch of chaparral to the next. And so you may get local extinctions and the population confined to an ever smaller space. Because we've been so successful in keeping those areas from getting cut off from each other, they've got a much better chance of surviving even as other changes take place.
I walked through the stand of chaparral with photographer Scott Hein. He pointed out a small perching bird with a white eye ring. It's called a blue-gray gnatcatcher. You're likely to hear it before you see it.
They have kind of a cute, buzzy little call that tells you they're around. Small birds, they have long tails that are mostly black down the center with white outer tail feathers, and the males have blackish caps, and the rest of it's that blue-gray color.
A little later, we see an Anna's hummingbird doing a weird dive straight down into the brush.
Now watch it come down and make the pop. It flares its tail right at the bottom, and almost always there's another hummingbird at the bottom of where it's popping its tail. It's a territorial thing. He's saying, this is my property, get off that toyon or whatever he's perched on.
The different species around here each do a different shaped loop up into the air. And he particularly likes this area because there's a lot of flowers and there are good places to perch. Good bare branches that he can see his rivals from.
Now continue on the single-track trail. It will take you southward into a grassland. Crystal Ranch will be on your left and Walnut Creek on your right. In a few minutes, the trail dead ends at a fire road. Turn right on the fire road and walk a couple of minutes to the top of the hill, which we've declared Stop 7.